refined is that kid? Good Lord. He speaks as if he's 25, 26 years old and not just entering into college for the first time. That's Elijah Moore. He's 6'4", 207 pounds, according to him right now, already having added, 10 pounds, I think he said, since he's arrived. He's a quick study. He's got a good body type, not just because of the height and the length. He's a thicker kid, Tom. I think there's a chance that you see some things from him this season. And a lot of times I would certainly not put that weight or burden on a wide receiver in their freshman year. But some guys, as the kids say, are built different, and he looks a little different than most that come in here. We've seen that before. It's not unheard of at the skill positions. You see it sometimes at running back. You see it sometimes at wide receiver. You see it sometimes at defensive back and safety. There are kids who have the muscle mass and muscle density to go along with the acumen. They can be quick learners and hard workers, and you can find them on the field contributing their freshman season, their true freshman season. Sometimes in, week 2, week 3, week 4, all of a sudden you're starting to see them available for 10 to 15 snaps a game. So, it might be that he does that. They need somebody else to emerge at wide receiver. We think Benson's going to be great or very good, dependable. He's a fast receiver. I think Hakeem will be better than what people think they saw during spring. But you could use another big receiver here, and Lord knows Elijah Moore might fit that bill at 6'4" and talented, and he oozes confidence too. And I think in a good way. I mean it as in listen, if you're an elite college football player at Florida State, Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, wherever, any place that aspires to win national titles, conference titles, make the playoff, you have to have a lot of confidence. You wouldn't be here. So he's got just the right amount of self-assuredness along with a sort of a humbleness and willing to work is what it sounds like.
Yeah, agreed on all fronts. Again, this is why, when I see some of these interviews, and some of it is because of the gig, right? So we'll produce some of these interviews when kids come on campus for official visits or unofficial visits, junior days. And sometimes they catch your ear. It's not even your eye. They just catch your ear like, oh man, that kid sounds like he's 16 going on 30. He's ready for the business that is to come before him. And it really is. And it was a business before NIL. I don't want to get that twisted. Now the money is different. The bank accounts look different and it's more robust in that regard. But man, you were working a full-time job and then playing football as a full-time job. You didn't have a life. So you needed to be well-adjusted to be a part of this program, certainly under Mike Norvell, before NIL even existed. But you hear that, and then you see the huddle, and you go, oh, I see. All right. So this kid can play at such a high level that Ohio State has been on him and on him and on him and does not want to lose him. And we're able to pluck him away from a first-round wide receiver factory like Ohio State. He sounds just like Mike Norvell in terms of preparation, details, willingness to work. Man, this has a real chance because I don't see what doesn't fit at Florida State. He's got the athleticism to play here. He's got the mindset to play for the head coach here. That's why my expectations personally for this true freshman are higher, because we have a need at the position, especially with his body type, and he checks all the other boxes, and it's not having to wait 2 years to be 325 pounds to be able to handle an ACC/SEC type defensive interior rush as a guard. This is a position that you can make an instant impact.
Every player that comes in with high expectations or immense talent, so maybe a kid doesn't come in with high expectations, maybe they got overlooked to some degree, maybe they were recruited just as an athlete, nobody was really sure what they could be. When they come in, I'm looking very quickly for a few things. Obviously the skill set. We're looking to see where they can fit in and how quickly they can play. But I'm also always looking for how they handle coaching and how they handle hard coaching. Mike Norvell is insistent that you have to be able to handle at times what teeters on not abuse. I would never say abuse. I mean, football is an emotional and violent game, so it's going to be emotional and violent, both in language and in physicality, whether that's how you play the game or how you teach the game. There are those that take a different approach, but by and large, it is a volatile sport. And so your ability to handle that hard coaching and welcome that hard coaching is always something I'm looking for. Elevate that even more when you play the position that the head coach played. I need to know, because that guy doesn't miss anything. He's not going to miss the mistake you made in depth on that route. He's not going to miss that you've got the ball in the wrong hand after the catch, in which sideline you're on. He's not going to miss the footwork or lack thereof and the precise or lack thereofness of the route. So when I hear a kid like that who's mature beyond his years and talks about wanting to get better, bigger, stronger, all of it, tells me that he's going to handle that kind of hard coaching well. And every player that's come through here that's handled it well, that either let it roll off his back or at least listened to the important parts of what was being conveyed to them. Well, I think constructive criticism is important, and you have to be able to handle it. Not everybody is emotionally capable of it. Not everybody's used to it. We've seen some kids come through here that didn't handle it well, and after about 4 or 5 moments in practice of them not handling it, I began to get concerned. I began to think a little bit about, will this work out? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. The ones who handle it very well early on, early and often, embrace it, smile even, learn from it, handle it, make the adjustment, move on, they're the ones who get on the field. I can't make any promises. I got to go to practice and watch this kid play. We'll see what happens when the pads come on. But it seems an awful lot like a young man who's equipped to do all of those things. Tom, let's take a look. Hear from, for those listening on the radio, from Jacob Rizzi, the young man from Harvard, offensive lineman. Kind of curious for people to hear his thoughts on where he'll be playing, what positions. You never know what to expect with a guy from Harvard. Guys who come from lower divisions of football, if you will. But at the same time, you get a leg up if you're smart, and he's a big dude. So let's hear from him here, and then we'll respond to that.
Hey, good morning. So you said you played right tackle, guard, center, tackle. What have you talked with the coaches about where you might start, or is it cross-training type of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Right now I'm taking a lot of center reps. Just being able to snap the ball is kind of the only real live thing I can practice with what we're doing. But ultimately, interior is going to be where I'm going to compete. Tackle was what I played for 2 years. I played a little guard during spring ball at my time at Harvard, but in one game my sophomore year. But ultimately, interior is what I'm going to be competing for.
The coaching staff added 2 other transfers that play the interior of the line with Richie, as well as TJ. For you having 2 years left, if you only had 1 year left, would that have changed the calculus you used in your head to figure out where you wanted to play college football? And I know you want to compete, and you're not going to compete to back up. But I mean, how much of a starting job is in the front of your mind this season?
Yeah, that's a great question. If I had 1 year, it wouldn't have changed anything. Hopefully I only, I have a bang-up job this year and get to go to the NFL and only use 1 year. If I have to use 2, so be it. This is a great place to be for 2 years. I like to compete. I want to win jobs. It doesn't really matter who's in front of me or who's whatever the deal is. If guys got here earlier. But the great part about Florida State's O-line room is it's very competitive, but it's a group of brothers. Everyone is like-minded in terms of wanting to win football games, and that's the best part about football. So that's another reason as to why I came here. So ultimately, I'm going to compete my tail off, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, there he is, and a chance to hear from Jacob Rizzi, who, again, Tom, I don't know what your expectation is. I just know that it certainly helps to hear a kid talk about taking a lot of reps at center. We've needed to find a backup center for some time. Who knows? Maybe he shocks us all and he's elite, and next thing you know, he's a starter. But I don't want to exclude the kid's opportunity. But 2 years is nice to have a kid, right? So he can continue in this weight program, kind of learn the ropes, if you will. It's certainly going to be a huge step up in terms of overall strength and team speed that he'll be facing. So it might take a year to adjust. But if he's physically gifted enough, we know he's smart enough, and I'm assuming that he's a hard worker. So there's reason to believe that maybe that's a plus to this team. you're not surprised to hear him handle a press conference well, but at the same time, I'm just nothing but curious. I have no idea what to expect about him. I don't think any of us do. It's impossible to look at the tape at Harvard and really know anything because of the level of competition they're facing. So I won't know until we get out there, and first time he goes against Farmer or Jackson, you get a real good indicator where he's at physically.
Well, if he wins any one of those reps this early, then he's going to be your starting center. I don't know that he will, but he's got the size that you would take a chance on at the very least. 6'5". I mean, it's good height for an interior offensive lineman. 300 pounds, 6'5".
Yeah.
He's an X factor for the next couple of years, and he's focusing on the interior. That's what we're going to need. Leonard and Ferguson and maybe Keandre. I forget where Keandre is in terms of his eligibility left, but you're going to lose at least two guys in the interior that way. Darius Washington, you're going to lose. I know he's a tackle now, but I mean, I think at a pinch, if you had a really good tackle situation, he would play interior as well. There is an exit strategy that you need to map out when Maurice Smith can't play anymore. And we've had many years to have that exit plan.
Yes.
And we've cultivated zero options.
Yeah. What world are we living in, Tom, where Maurice Smith is not starting at center for Florida State, sir?